Global Birdfair is fast approaching, a wonderful 3-day event centred on birding and nature held in Rutland in the UK. There's so much to enjoy there, an extensive programme of talks from wildlife professionals and enthusiasts, exhibition tents with an amazing range of optics, outdoor clothing, bird feeders and wildlife accessories, representation from tour companies and tourist boards from around the world enticing us on dream birding vacations, and an art tent selling photography, paintings and sculptures by people who've been inspired by nature. Global Birdfair is also a fabulous place to meet up with old friends and make new ones. At last year's event, I conducted a series of interviews on the Swarovski-sponsored WinChat podcast stage with awesome birders and conservationists. In the run-up to this year's event, I'll be presenting those interviews. This year, the podcast stage will feature an even larger programme of shows from birding and wildlife podcasters, and once again, I'll be one of them. I do hope I'll meet you there. If you are interested in coming along to this year's event, held over the weekend of 12th, 13th and 14th of July, follow the link in the episode notes for further information and to buy tickets. Welcome to the Casual Birder podcast. I'm Susie Buttress. As a casual birder, I take pleasure in watching the wild birds around me, wherever I am. In my show, I share the joy of birding. I tell you about the birds I've seen, speak with experts and enthusiasts, go on bird outings, and I share stories from birders around the world. Alan Davies and Ruth Miller are both passionate birders. In 2008, they gave up their jobs and sold everything to embark on an epic year-long quest to see and hear as many bird species as possible. After many adventures on a journey taking them around the world, their final total was an amazing 4,341 species, achieving a world record for the most species seen in 1 year by an individual, or a couple in this case. They held that record until 2015, when Noah Stricker logged 6,042 species, a record that was broken just a year later by Arjen de Warshaus with 6,852 species. Despite these later achievements, Ruth still holds the world record for the most birds identified by a woman in 1 year. Alan and Ruth wrote about their adventures in their book The Biggest Twitch. They now run a birdwatching tour company, providing guided tours in their home country of Wales and further afield around the world. I'd been looking forward to speaking with Alan and Ruth for some time, and I was so pleased to be able to catch up with them at Global Birdfair. My interview with them was recorded live, with challenging weather and a thunderstorm approaching. Hello everyone, welcome to the Casual Birder podcast. I'm here with Alan Davies and Ruth Miller, who have travelled extensively for birds and who also lead tours where they show others the wonder of bird life. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So I've heard you speak several times here at Global Birdfair and always been fascinated by the things you told. First of all, the biggest thing, the biggest
the
twitch.
biggest one.
Can we talk about this amazing journey you made in, was it 2009?
2008. 15 years ago.
No.
Scary.
A lifetime ago.
So tell me, what did you do?
Well, it all started here, so be careful, people at Birdfair. It gives you great ideas. We came away from the Birdfair thinking we wanted to do more travelling and seeing birds. So we couldn't find a good reason for not doing it, could we? So we gave up our jobs. We both worked for the RSPB. We sold our homes and we put all our savings into spending a whole year travelling around the world. And just to up the ante a bit, we said we want to set a new world record at the time for the most birds seen in 1 calendar year around the world.
Amazing. And how did it go?
I'll let you answer that one.
There was a lot of ups and downs, as you can imagine. Yeah, 27 countries, in 12 months and over 4,000 birds, which was at the time was way beyond the previous world record. So we did really well, I think, and enjoyed ourselves, saw some amazing adventures and some hairy moments as well, as you can imagine. All that travel, you're not going to be completely smooth sailing all the way, so some very hairy moments at times, and saw amazing birds and wildlife and met some inspirational conservation people as well, which was, I think, perhaps one of the biggest takeaways from the biggest twitch, was meeting wonderful people doing amazing conservation work around the world on very small budgets as well. Having worked for the RSPB, we were quite used to NGOs with big muscle power and lots of spending. Then to meet these guys out in places like Ecuador and far-flung parts of the world doing conservation work on a shoestring budget was absolutely humbling and amazing. Yeah, so
You mentioned lots of ups and downs. Did you actually complete it in a calendar year?
Oh, yes. Yep. Yeah, we started on the 1st of January 2008 in a sewage works, because everyone knows sewage works are great places for birding. So we were somewhere called Sweetwater Water Treatment Plant in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona. And we continued right until the 31st of December 2008, where we finished up in Ecuador. So it was an entire calendar year. Technically, it was a leap year. So that meant it was 366 days long, and we were like this, no further apart than we are at the moment, which is what, about a foot and a half, I suppose?
for a whole year.
For a
Can you
whole
imagine?
year, 300. I
Nightmare.
mean, people get less for murder, don't they, quite frankly?
It was a nightmare.
And
Yeah.
it was because we decided that for our world record, we both had to see or hear every single bird for it to go on the list. So we couldn't run the chance of one of us seeing it and the other one not. So we had to stay like this.
And you're still together now, so
Amazing.
Amazingly, yeah, I'm going to say amazingly, yeah. Through our love of birds.
So at the time, am I right in thinking, Ruth, that that was like the most birds seen by a woman?
It is now, yes.
is.
I am still, as far as I'm aware, the female world record holder for the most birds seen in 1 year.
Wow, that's amazing.
So apologies to Noah Stricker and Ariane Duasis, who is here, and there's a lovely chap, but he's a man. I am still the
So
female
I'm in
world record
third place,
holder.
yeah.
But there is a challenge there then for anyone else
Yes,
out there
absolutely,
who wants to...
yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Male and female, yeah, I'm going to say. But
Now-
a huge challenge now, mind you, with the male record is so far ahead now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Now, Alan, I saw a talk by you a couple of years ago where you did talk about the biggest twitch, but you also talked about how you've moved into more casual birding. So could you tell me a little bit about
Casual
that
birding.
change?
Not quite sure I'd call it casual birding. Still totally obsessed with seeing birds. But yeah, obviously the biggest twitch was just a one-off, very much so. We travelled very fast pace, seeing birds for, very often for very short periods of time before we had to see another new bird and another new bird, another new bird. Whereas now our bird watching is very, very different to that. Yeah. We like to take our time, really enjoy views of birds, watch what the birds are doing behaviour-wise, and enjoy their locations as well. I think for me these days, seeing birds in beautiful places is more important than seeing new species as such. I'd much rather go somewhere with a wonderful location, a beautiful landscape, and see perhaps 20 birds than go somewhere awful and see 100 birds there, which years ago that wouldn't have been the case. It was all about seeing numbers of birds years ago, but now it's very different now.
So it's almost like now it's the kind of quality of observation than the quantity
I
seen.
think you could definitely say that, a quality experience with the birds and seeing special birds in special habitats, and also helpfully trying to promote their conservation and the preservation of the habitats particularly. Yeah. We're losing so much of our natural habitat in the UK and the world, so more we can raise awareness about that conservation issue, then better it is.
Yeah. Now you've moved into leading tours yourselves, both in Wales where you live, and you could tell us a little bit about the amazing birds you see from your windows.
Oh, we are rather lucky, yes.
Yes, I'm very jealous whenever I see you say anything on Twitter. But also you take tours around the world. So first of all, tell us a little bit about how that came about, how you came to be leading tours.
Well, I guess it came about from finishing our big year abroad, and we'd kind of shown that we probably were pretty unreliable when it came to working for somebody else in an office. Well, there's no way we'd fit back into the 9 to 5, and we were doing what we're passionate about, which is watching birds and sharing them with other people, which we'd been doing on our big year. We were always birding with somebody else. So we thought, well, how can we keep that going? And decided, well, we'd best set up our own company and carry on showing people birds, which is exactly what we do. I mean, you know yourself. It's wonderful watching a bird, but the pleasure is doubled when you share it with somebody else and you point it out to them. Hey, look at this bird, isn't it fantastic? And they go, wow, I've never seen that before. Or what are those views? That's incredible. So we just get a real thrill from sharing birds with other people.
And you take people to quite spectacular locations. Would you first of all tell us about the ones closer to home that you do?
Well, we're very, very lucky. We live in a place called Llandudno on the North Wales coast, which is right next to a headland called the Great Orme. And we're lucky. We're halfway up the hillside of the Great Orme, so our view from our window is spectacular. We can see the sea, we can see the mountains of Snowdonia, and we have a vast amount of sky that we can see as well. We don't see robins, we don't see blue tits from our window because we haven't got a garden. But what we can see is this vast area of sky, and literally the day before we came to Birdfair, we're watching a flock of 5 red-billed chough circling at eye level right in front of our living room window, which is pretty special, really. I mean, chough are wonderful birds, and to sit on your sofa and see a flock of chough outside your window and then be able to watch them for many minutes as they soared around and cavorted against the blue sky with the mountains of Snowdonia in the distance. We are very, very lucky indeed.
It's a really special
we're very
view.
lucky,
And I know that you sometimes get birds on migration through there, so seabirds particularly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, again, we're very lucky because the headland of the Great Orme sticks out into the Irish Sea, so it's a natural place for migrant birds. So we also see things like gannets passing, sandwich terns, Arctic skewers if we're lucky, Manx shearwaters all seen from our window. And ospreys is the other amazing bird we've been seeing more recently. I mean, here at Rutland Water, of course, we've got the stories of the ospreys returning to the UK and England particularly. But during lockdown, obviously, we were spending a lot of time at home, like a lot of other people. We actually saw 16 sightings of ospreys during lockdown from our window. Yeah. These are birds migrating north, probably heading for Scotland, and they're using the Conway Valley probably as a migration route, and that takes them right over our house.
That's
absolutely phenomenal. We've never seen an osprey before from our window until before lockdown. And then just being at home, we realise what's passing over our house. And that's one of the beauties of bird watching. You can be sat at home and still see birds without going out of the house. I mean, how exciting is that?
Absolutely. It's the epitome of casual birding.
Absolutely. Sitting
nice
on the sofa.
Nice cup of tea and looking out the window. Yeah. Now, I know that you also lead tours abroad, and there's a couple of special countries that you go to. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
Well, certainly a couple of our favourites are going to Spain and then going to Scandinavia, to Finland and Norway. And we've been lucky enough to take groups there to both of those countries this year. So Spain is a regular of ours around April, May time. It's a great time to catch up with migration, but also all the exciting regular resident birds there. So that sort of springtime is the perfect time to go. It's nice and warm, nice weather, fantastic scenery. And we go to Extremadura, which is a very unspoilt part of Spain. So that's a regular there. And then May, June time, if you want to find us, then you've got to look for us in Finland and Norway, because that's where we go then. And we normally do a 2-week tour there, working our way from Helsinki in the south all the way up through Finland into Arctic Norway, right as far north as you can go and still stay on the mainland. This year, we changed it slightly in that we were asked to put together a custom tour for a lovely group of 4 American friends, and they wanted us to make it a 3-week tour for them. So we were definitely casual about our birding.
Very casual.
We could go at a really, really relaxed pace and take our time just soaking up the wonderful scenery, the different habitats, because as you're progressing further north, you're changing from deciduous woodland into coniferous, into right up into the tundra. And it's just so dramatic. Wonderful birds, amazing encounters, fantastic mammals as well. We spent a couple of nights overnight in a bear hide. So it really was amazing, wasn't it?
Definitely one of our favourites. I'd say this year was lovely to be more casual about the birding and have the time to stand and stare and just sit and watch the wildlife and really soak it up, whereas sometimes our tours are moving a little bit quicker. So I think it's definitely the way to go. Casual birding is the way forward.
And you've also been to Africa. I think you've been to some countries in Africa.
Lots.
I know that I'm pretty sure I've seen your pictures of shoebill.
Shoebill is one of our favourite birds. I mean, it's just a crazy-looking bird. And it's a bird we didn't see during our big adventure in 2008. So in unfinished business, we looked for the shoebill in 2008. We didn't see it. So that was a bird that was high on our wanted list for a long, long time. Eventually we got the chance to visit a beautiful country called Uganda, and they have shoebills there, and we've now seen shoebills. And it was one of those absolute classical must-see birds. Real pressure as well to see the bird. Took a long time to find it in the swamps of Uganda, and then finally we came around a corner in a creek, and there was a shoebill standing, staring, looking at us. And it's just one of those wonderful moments in birding. You'll never, ever forget that moment. Making eye contact with a shoebill from a dugout canoe in the middle of a swamp is really cool.
Because they are big birds, and obviously big
Big
bills.
and impressive. Massive beaks, yeah. And when you're in a dugout canoe, they look even bigger because you're low down to the water and they're standing up on the bank above you. So it's an awesome bird, yeah. Highly recommend seeing a shoebill.
I imagine it's very sort of prehistoric almost, having it look directly at you.
Absolutely. It's like meeting a dinosaur in the swamp. Yeah. We call them, our nickname for the shoebill is Dino Bird, yeah. So if everyone ever says, what's a shoebill like? Well, it's a dino bird. You know, it is cross between a dinosaur and a bird, yeah.
And just on the subject of tours, I'm hoping to take a tour with you at some point. We will get that sorted.
Good.
Let's make it happen. But I did go on a tour in Scotland a couple of years ago.
Lovely.
And it was the first time that I'd been with a guide that kind of took the tour and kind of looked after the group. And I was really stunned at how much work it is. Because in my head, I thought, this would be lovely, taking a group of like-minded people out. But of course, while you might be like-minded on a certain level, everyone is individual. And if you're leading a tour, you're there to accommodate as much as possible everyone's wants, desires, what they want to see, their personality types, their energy levels. And you're laughing there, so I'm thinking I am hitting a nerve. But I really was... really stunned, and I will just name drop. It was Mike Dilger that was our tour leader, and I was absolutely stunned at how much work he put in to make it a success for us.
Sure.
And I never realised before quite how much hard work it is. But you know, your little laugh there made me think
some good stories.
It's resonating. Is there anything you can share with us without making anyone feel bad about being on a tour?
There's lots of things we can't share with you. but that's very
true. Do you
true,
have to, you know, is that the case? Do you handle all the catering? Do you handle all the travelling?
Absolutely everything.
And how do you get to know the people that are coming on your trips? Do you have like a welcome evening, or is it people that you already know that tend to come with you?
It's a real mixture. We find quite often that people will join us for a day trip first of all, and we'd always suggest that's a really good way to go. Try a day trip, see how you get on. Then maybe think about doing something a bit longer. In fact, if we didn't know you at all and you popped up and said, well, I'd like to do a 3-week tour of Africa with you, we would probably say, well, I tell you what, why don't you come over and do a day trip with us first? I think because we are organising absolutely everything, so we're your point of contact from the word go, when it's just emailing us, I'm interested in this, to making all the arrangements to running the group. We're very careful to make sure that we know everyone's happy with the trip and everyone's going to get on together.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. I think if the tour is going well, then you probably don't realise how much work is going on. In fact, I would see that as a success. If you see it's all gone swimmingly and you don't realise how much work has gone on, then we've done our job well, because showing you the birds is actually the pinnacle at the top. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Everything else is underwater, and you don't want to see that bit. You don't need to see that bit. You're there to enjoy the birds, and it's down to us to make sure that everyone has a really enjoyable trip. One lady has been with us on, she must be getting on near 40 different trips, I think, over the years. She calls us tour mum and dad, because basically that's what we are.
Hopefully.
Oh, that's a lovely story.
Yeah, but I think it's quite important that, like Ruth said, that we do all the administration for the tours as well. So we set up a little bit of a relationship with people, and we can usually quite good now at gauging how people are from their email tone and what sort of things they like, and how the way we advertise our tours attracts a certain type of person. People like, you know, a little more casual bird watchers, if you like. We're not a hardcore birding group that's going to be rushing around at 100 mile an hour for 24 hours a day. We're going to take our time.
Somebody once said to us, didn't they, do you think you should do bird tours that involve lots of food and cake? And we said, well, we kind of think that's what we do, actually.
We do.
There's quite a few familiar faces sitting out there who could probably say, put thumbs up or thumbs down, is that what we do? Birds
cake,
with cake. Yeah, I'm seeing thumbs up, you see. There we go. Birds with cake and good food.
Sounds perfect.
No, it's important, Yeah.
It is important.
And you can still see the birds. That's the great thing. You don't need to rush around 100 miles an hour. You just take your time, enjoy the birds, and enjoy the whole experience. Enjoy the wildlife too.
Yeah, I guess it's managing the expectations then. So as long as they know what kind of tour they're signing up for, as long as you know what they're hoping to get out of it.
We do seriously say to people sometimes, look, we're not the ideal tour company for you. Why don't you go to someone like BirdQuest or many other companies which are a little bit faster paced than us and perhaps going to see a longer species list than us and go at a different style of tour. We will recommend other companies to people if we feel that someone isn't right for our particular style of tour. I mean, it does sound a bit silly because we're turning business away. The last thing we want is to have people to come on our tours and not be happy. So, it's very important to us that everyone that comes on the tour knows what they're signing up to and enjoys it. We enjoy it.
It's the enjoyment bit, isn't it? I mean, yes, you can rack up a huge number of birds on your tick list if you rush around all day and all night. But are you really enjoying it?
Do you enjoy your endure?
What gives us pleasure is watching birds, watching what they're doing, absorbing all the details of their plumages, their features, just watching what they're up to. And you can't do that if you're really, really tired and actually all you want to do is go to bed because you've been up for 14 hours all through the night before and this, that and the other. So no, it's all about enjoying it. People are on a holiday after all.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that attracted me to you was hearing you talk about that. And it was, no, I didn't know about the cake. That's just the icing on the top, as it were. But no, the way you describe the views of the birds that you have is just what appeals to me. I'd like to ask you a little bit about your work with encouraging others to be involved in conservation. Now, I know, Alan, I've seen your tweets and sometimes you're quite outspoken, or rather many times not. But at the same time, you also put tweets out where you kind of encourage people to really enjoy the day and to look at birds.
Exactly,
And you've got a sort of hashtag that you use, Aren't Birds Brilliant?
Aren't Birds Brilliant,
Aren't Birds Brilliant, which I really like. It's a really positive
We stole
message.
that from the RSPB. They've stopped using it. They've stopped using it. It's a real shame.
Oh, it's because you've taken it.
Well, possibly.
But both of you have been involved in sort of helping others have voices in the conservation world.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, we are passionate conservationists. I mean, that's where we've come from. Our background is working for the RSPB. We work for the RSPB because we wanted to make the world a better place for birds and people. And the RSPB strapline was for a while for birds, for people, forever. And we absolutely bought into that completely. I mean, that's absolutely what we were passionate about during our time with the RSPB, was getting people to see birds, getting people to appreciate birds, and to look at the wonder of birds, and then through that appreciation and wonder, hopefully they would then support the conservation of the birds, and then of course through birds is the wider whole nature thing and wildlife throughout the whole country and throughout the world. And more people who are passionate about birds, I think we have a better world. We're going to make a better world, without a doubt. And I truly believe that birds are a fantastic gateway into wildlife conservation. They're easy to see, they're colourful, they're engaging. Like you say, sitting on the sofa at home, you can see a bird. You can't see a tiger, or you can't see a shark, but you can see a bird. And I think birds are a massive way of getting people into conservation.
And Ruth, I know you've done some work looking at women in conservation.
Well, yes, I think that's something that's been overlooked a lot, is the contribution that women have made to conservation. Even here in the UK, let's not forget that the RSPB was actually started back in the Victorian era by ladies who felt that they needed to stand up against the feather trade. While one half of the females were wearing hats with bird feathers in, people were realising, hang on a minute, this isn't right and we should do something about it. And think how difficult it must have been to stand up against society in those days. So if they could do that, that's the very least that we could do now. So I am so in favour of women getting more and more involved in birding, in conservation. And I think we've got to start with youngsters. I mean, you could almost say we're getting too old for this sort of thing now. It's the next generations that are coming up that we need to encourage. So one of the things you'll see us doing if we're out and about and we see families, we're very happy to help share our views of the birds that we're looking at. So one of our local places is an RSPB reserve called South Stack. Fantastic seabird cliffs, and everyone goes there wanting to see a puffin. Not always easy to see, but we're usually able to spot one or two. And one of the best things, isn't it, is just sharing those views with other people. So we'll drop the scope down, we'll help point them out and try to get youngsters to get a good view of these birds, to really help sow that seed, just spark, ignite that spark of love for birds and interest in the natural world. I think all kids are naturalists by nature, and unfortunately it gets squeezed out of them as maybe the real world gets in the way. So let's all do what we can to help
Share
keep
birds,
that alive,
And it's such an easy thing to do. And we got a chance to we were at Bempton Cliffs last week, and there was a family there, and we noticed that they didn't have binoculars, didn't have cameras, had no optics at all. And the little boy was saying to his dad, "When can we see a puffin? When can we see a puffin?" And his dad was saying, "Oh, I can't see one." So we just said, "Have a look in here," and dropped the scope down for the little boy to look. And his reaction was just, just
he was jumping up and down.
He was literally jumping up and down and just so thrilled to see a puffin in the scope, full frame picture of a puffin. I mean, that is just worth, just fantastic.
It's priceless, isn't it? He was excited, moment. The family were excited, we were excited.
We were excited for him.
That kind of enthusiasm is infectious. So.
And that was just a wonderful moment. That's just the best thing about birding, I think, is just sharing it with other people and infusing other people.
And that's something any of us can do when we're out, in a hide or when we're out walking.
Such a simple thing, yeah.
It's just
and doesn't have to be a puffin either.
Just
could be a robin.
Yeah,
just could be a robin as well.
Yeah, you've got to read people, and some people just like to be alone and don't want you to.
Don't want to be too pushy, but if you see someone who wants to see, even something like a moorhen or a grey heron or a jackdaw, it doesn't have to be something rare. It just show someone a good view of a bird, and 9 times out of 10 they'll thank you for it, and you'll feel better for doing it as well.
So thank you so much for your time today. I would like to finish on asking you each separately.
Heck.
If you had a fantasy birding day where you could be anywhere in the world, see any bird you want and do anything you like but related to birds,
wow,
what would you do?
Is this one that we haven't done, or our favourite?
No. It can be anything. It's a fantasy day. It's for you to have.
Day. Okay. Budget no limit, and we're not going to worry about carbon footprint on this occasion. Then please can I be transported back to South Georgia? I would like to go ashore on a Zodiac, and I would like to go and see king penguins. I have been lucky enough to do it, and it was just the most amazing experience in my life. A kind of 500,000 penguins packed on a kind of small area of land. The company we were with, their livery was yellow, the kind of yellow that a king penguin has around its throat, and I don't know whether that was coincidence, but they all seemed to kind of come closer towards us. Maybe they thought we were giant penguins, I'm not sure. So we'd been told not to get close to them, but nobody had told the penguins not to come close to us. So they're coming up to us, they're looking up at us, they're kind of looking into our rucksacks. Fabulous. Amazing. So can I go back there, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Alan?
I think I'd definitely have to go back to the Amazon rainforest and see another harpy eagle. Yeah. And when I was about 6 years old, I had a book called The Hamlin Guide to Birds of Prey given to me as a Christmas present. And in that book, there was a picture of a harpy eagle dismembering a monkey. And as a 7-year-old, it was just like, oh my God, what an amazing bird. I never ever dreamt I'd see one. And in 2008, we were lucky enough, after 3 days of searching the forest, we found a harpy eagle. And to this day, it's my absolute pinnacle birding moment. And to relive that would be just magical, to see another harpy eagle. Engage again, eye-to-eye contact with a harpy eagle again would be just off the scale. It's amazing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Sounds as though we might be about to put into practice the theory of whether your rubber boots are going to protect us all from a lightning strike.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think we'll
I didn't idea to draw a line under it now.
Thanks so much for your time.
Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting
us.
It's really good fun. Thank you.
My thanks to Alan and Ruth for taking the time to speak with me, to Oscar Henderson for handling the production of the show at Global Birdfair, and to Charlie Bingham for her work in scheduling the guests for interview. If you'd like to find out more about the tours that Alan and Ruth provide, visit birdwatchingtrips.co.uk. And I highly recommend that you read the blogs on their website showcasing their recent bird tours. It includes photos of the bird scene, and it's great for a bit of armchair birding. The link is in the episode notes. If you'd like to support the show's production, you can add to the show's tip jar by buying a virtual coffee at ko-fi.com. All of your support is very much appreciated. I love hearing about your sightings. Tell me about them by leaving me a message or voicemail using the contact form on my website, casualbirder.com, and maybe consider signing up for the Casual Birder Bird Club. We meet virtually once a month to share our birding stories or to watch presentations from special guests. Take a look at the episode notes for the links to these. My thanks to Randy Braun for designing the artwork for the show. The theme music is Short Sleeve Shirt by the Drones. Thanks to them for letting me use it. Check out their website at dronesmusic.net. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you'll join me again for another episode of the Casual Birder podcast.